Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dynamics Fortnite Fridays.
Where we cover everything great and small in the land of Dynamics 365.
Welcome, Max. How are you?
I can't complain. It's a Friday after all, and of all Fridays, it's a Dynamics Fortnite Friday, so everything's good there. That and
Fortnite
then
Fridays are always the best Fridays.
that and was recently my birthday, so no complaints here.
Yeah. So you finally made it to 25, huh?
24. I'm almost at
Oh, okay,
25.
okay, okay. Well, do you follow the pattern here with Dan and I and have a dad joke for me
Huh.
already?
I am offended that you even question that. I mean, who would I be if I didn't come with one? All
Well,
right,
what do you
so
got? What do you got?
let's make them relatively topical. And me being from Philadelphia, I learned something new recently.
Oh,
So, back to school, that's definitely the thing right now. So in stores, you're seeing like notebooks and binders. And so I found something interesting about pencils. So do you know what the pencil's favorite state is?
have it. What do you got?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, good synonym. Well, it's a homonym there. Yeah, good homonym joke.
I have to say,
Yeah.
I used Copilot. It gave me a few. I saw Pennsylvania, and I have to represent the local pride.
Absolutely.
All
I
right, so
decided to
enough
go
from me.
sort of topical with the same time of year. So back to school is on all of us right now, it seems like, if you're at all connected with any one of the youth generation. But mine is kind of weird, but kind of fun, I think. But why are all trees really apprehensive during back to school time?
Wow, it's the end of summer retreat.
Good guess, good guess. They don't want to go to class and have a teacher stump them.
Gosh, I thought it was gonna be something about leaves, but that was pretty
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. It was okay. All right, let's share my screen and get into the fun stuff. So, Power Platform, as always, lots of good stuff out here. Generative Pages, we have made a nice update to allow GPT-5 if you would like when generating your model-driven app page. So remember, this is generating pages in model-driven apps, and it's creating full responsive React or TypeScript type pages in the context of your model-driven app. GPT-5 has lots of improvements in a lot of different ways, plus some other little minor enhancements that aren't necessarily tied directly to what you would think of as typical GPT-5 stuff. But when you turn it on, you get a lot of these things. So again, preview, but if you are playing around with generative pages, play around with the new GPT-5 model when making them. Pretty cool stuff. Dataverse as a knowledge repository in Copilot Studio. So it's been there for a long time. It's one of the better knowledge repositories out there in terms of being able to get good, accurate results. And we have just added some new capabilities to allow Copilot Studio knowledge searches to cross multi-line text columns. Those were omitted in previous iterations of this. And columns in your table that were specifically there for files to be attached to so that you could know exactly what type of file is going to be attached there. Well, we now are having Copilot search across those multi-line text columns and those file columns when doing the knowledge search to be able to return details that are either inside of that file or as part of that multi-line text, like think a big notes field. So it's just kind of a few things that are called out in this. There are some limitations in terms of the file types that we are able to crawl, so you probably should get in and read a little bit more of the details, but that's the basic idea is Dataverse as a knowledge source just keeps getting better and better. If you are using our Center of Excellence Starter Kit, August update is out. Go download that and update your kit to the latest version. And kind of as I've been reiterating every month, that we're coming out with lots of bug fixes that continue to make it even better in terms of just functioning more cleanly and without as many errors and all those kind of things. But we are not adding new functionality to this kit all that effort is being put into making sure our admin center functionality of the Power Platform Admin Center keeps getting better and better. Speaking of, how about talking about Monitor? So Monitor has been around for quite a while on the maker side of things in the like make.powerapps.com capabilities, but there hasn't been a lot available for admins to see in the Power Platform Admin Center. So I'm going to talk about Monitor in two different contexts today. One is Monitor is now a little more expanded, and with what you can do here, you can actually do a pretty nice job as an admin of taking care of cloud flows in Power Automate and the Power Apps universe, whether it's model driven or Canvas apps. And honestly, we can see some desktop flow stuff in this monitor, but it's not as rich as I wish it were for those of you who are doing RPA. So all of this stuff is out there. The other thing to understand about it is it's not just reporting information. It is equipped with lots of different places where you can either right click or highlight something and click on buttons to go take action on things that you're monitoring. It doesn't require any setup. Just go click on it and use it. But one other thing to understand is everything that you're seeing in that admin center view of Monitor is at least 24 hours old. It only updates once a day in the background. So just know that it is not up to the minute. If you're not watching things that are happening intraday, this is seeing the trends and seeing the things that you need to take action on that you've got a little longer term telemetry on. So Monitor, pretty good stuff. And I'm actually going to skip over to this alerting one because that is part 2 of the Monitor conversation. That in Monitor, another thing that got turned on between the last time we had a show and now is the ability to go into Monitor and set alerts. So these alerts allow you to kind of understand that you're setting thresholds of what you want things to kind of be watching for. And if something crosses one of those thresholds, it's going to alert you. And all you have to do is set your alerts up with things like, app load times are going too long, or there's spikes in flow failures in the environments that we care about, or degradation in availability for apps and error spikes in desktop flows, whatever it is that you might want to be watching for, that there's lots of interesting things that you might be alerting on that you hadn't thought of in the past. So pretty good stuff. All right, back to the other things that I had talked about out here. If you are using customer managed keys, then we have some nice updates for you that should make it a little easier from a couple of different perspectives. One is that when you put a new key in place, we take whatever it is that that key applies to down until the new encryption has been done according to your new key, and then that comes back up. We used to wait until every service that that key touched was fully encrypted before letting any of it turn back on, and there was a fairly long delay. We have changed to understanding which services are core to the user functionality and which ones are ancillary, and it's probably okay if they just don't have access to for a limited period of time while that encryption is happening. We never turn anything back on until it is finished, but we start letting people into the most used parts of the things as the encryption has completed, and we prioritize those things over the ancillary things so that we let you get back to at least most of the work that you do a lot sooner. Also, Key Vault is one of the biggest ways that you manage all of this key stuff. And if there was something that happened where your Key Vault access from the environment got revoked, or there was some problem with it, that fixing that Key Vault connection with your environment was problematic. And there are now a lot of self-service tools to help you both prevent and reconnect if something does happen, along with putting this out in more places and reminding everyone that the old technology we used to use called Bring Your Own Key has been replaced with Customer Managed Key. I know they sound really similar, but if you're using BYOK, you need to move to CMK. It's just the way our fun acronyms work. Much better experience, all the investment coming into CMK Realm. Use it if you are an enterprise customer who has lots of assets with us, and that is an important piece of keeping everything compliant. For kind of the single page apps that you could build in React, we allow you to put those custom built single page apps inside of the Power Pages infrastructure. And there's now a new sort of lab, if you will, to use GitHub Spark plus Codespaces to whip up an app and host it in Power Pages. So kind of a cool little thing that I discovered as a lab and thought I would just make sure that people know that that's out there. Another thing in Power Pages realm is to remind people, or actually tell people, that you can now, from within the Power Pages Design Studio, create an agent right from within there on whatever page you're working on. And if you have exposed Dataverse data on that page to your end users, it'll automatically connect that agent to that Dataverse data with the security model you've put on top of that Dataverse data. So pretty seamless point-click go capability to get an agent for a page. Now, once you've initiated it, you can go customize that agent in Copilot Studio however else you need to give it access to more knowledge sources, to give it extra, whatever you might need for knowledge repositories, or maybe even put a MCP server behind it, or whatever else you need it to do. You can do all that. And that as we've made this easier and easier to make kind of page-specific things across a site, we also updated the chat widget that gets used in the Power Pages infrastructure so that it's easier to kind of understand what's going on, and so that that same chat widget can host lots of different agents, and that you could switch between those agents, and that it's a little bit cleaned up and more responsive and accessible and all kinds of different things. So lots of great options here, including making sure that this agent follows the same authentication scheme that you put into your Power Page site. So lots of good improvements there. For agent flows, a brand new capability has recently come out called an information request, or a request for information, depending on which order you want to read the letters in. But it's basically a way to put human in the loop when you are walking through a business process, especially if you're doing something in AI and all of a sudden you need a human to like review and like log that they have interpreted and that they're confident that things are right, or they need to have changes made before they would release whatever the AI has built to whoever it's supposed to go to. That the flow is handling the business process and helping orchestrate the AI to build the thing, and then you get this information request in front of a human to do their review and to then fill out whatever other things you need them to be able to put into that response back for either the agent to pick up on and then go do rework on its own, or for other humans to pick up and do other things with. But lots of different things other than just like a yes/no approval that you could have it as a human in the loop, but it was pretty binary, and we're given lots more flexibility in this new mode. So there we go. Several of the next things that are out here are really just sort of informational, that it's things that got released in our admin center message center. For a agent that someone is interacting with in the Teams UI or even in M365 Copilot UI, we used to have a half-hour inactivity detection before it would close the active conversation and just kind of return back, so that you'd have to initiate a new conversation when you came back to that window. It has been reduced to 15 minutes. So we've halved that to try to put a little more security around this and to make it a little more intuitive, that if you've been gone for more than 15 minutes to a conversation, it's not going to just keep going with that same conversation window and have all the right memory and everything else attached to it. For data masking, we've made some pretty nice new improvements, especially for admins and for auditing. So it's worth taking a look at this if you are data masking things in Dataverse, to see all the various things that you as admins can do to read unmasked values and make sure that all that stuff is being logged and audited appropriately, but pretty nice updates to that. If you've been looking at Test Engine as a way to do automated testing for Power Platform things, it's kind of the newer, more flexible approach to doing automated testing. Well, that's now generally available, and go forth and use Test Engine for all of your native needs for everything that you're going to do automated testing on with Power Platform. There's a couple of different articles I referenced under hygiene for Dataverse in that there are logs that get put into Dataverse as lots of behind the scenes executions happen. And we are turning on the ability to just set retention windows on those logs to say, I want those logs, but I really only need them for 15 days, or I really only need them for 45 days. If it's older than that, I really am not going to care anymore. And I don't want to have to go set up all my own rules to clean the right things up. We're going to make this really easy to just set a setting or two on how long you want to keep them and let it automatically just go do its work. The last two in this area are we have a new document processing agent that's being introduced in that document automation world, so that this agent is one you're just going to sort of prompt, and it's going to figure out how to do a lot of the things by automating the collection, extraction, categorization, and validation of data from lots of different document types. So this document processing agent is a different way to do a lot of things we used to have that doc automation workflow. And it's not that it's replacing all of it, but this is going to be a new tool in your toolkit. And along the same lines, we're introducing very shortly a new thing called a validation station in this kind of document processing automation capabilities in AI Builder, where all the stuff that's coming through is going to basically have this workbench concept for being able to send stuff to it or take a look at stuff that maybe has not high enough confidence to move on through on an invoice or a receipt or a contract or whatever else, but making sure that that shows up someplace where someone can either just say, it was good enough, it got it right, I'm a human, I'm letting that go, or man, thanks for putting that in front of me, now I know I need to go rerun something or whatever else. So this station is a helpful place to be able to go validate things. Pay attention to that if you're using any of those capabilities. I'm going to switch over to a few quick things in the CE space in our finished products on the customer engagement side of things, and that the case management agent, if you're using it, it has been updated quite a little bit to be able to be used in more of a fully autonomous mode. I'm going to let you dig into the article, but that's the main thing, is we've made it able to do more things, and especially more things in an autonomous fashion. If you are using the SMS functionality in our contact center for being able to have the back and forth communications with customers, and you're using ACS as the provider, we have added a whole bunch of new capabilities in there to be able to use mobile numbers for SMS, to be able to have short codes be in there, and to do other things that you just couldn't do in the past. So look for some of the new capabilities for SMS in our contact center environments. The customer intent agent, similar to the case management agent, has had lots of new capabilities as the LLMs keep getting better and we keep investing in more of the under the covers orchestration of child agents underneath that intent agent umbrella to go do things that more in a more sophisticated way, with taking whatever inputs that it might have, whether it's voice or emails or chats or texts or whatever, that it will look at whatever's going on in whatever conversation capability is happening. And this is more of that contact center realm, to understand customer intent so that you can either route because of it, or alert supervisors because of customer intent, or do whatever you need to for knowledge, either exposure or creation based on customer intents, that intent kind of category or library of intents that you want to pay attention to and what you want to do with them. This agent is helping you manage both the action side and the collection side of all of that intent information. So take a look at the updates in intent. Sales qualification agent on the sales side, another one that has been updated in the Wave 2 preview stuff, especially to become fully autonomous if you would like it to be. So pay attention in your preview environments for that happening. And then if you are using our contact center in the voice capability, there is a new setting that you can go into inside of the admin center and have it pre-connect microphones to an agent's kind of login session so that they're just always there and they don't get the alert anymore saying, is it okay to use your microphone? And it will make sure that the mics are hot when you're ready for them to be hot. So I've gone pretty long-winded as often, Max. I'm going to turn it over to you to run through all of the stuff you want to cover on all of our other products.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead, share my screen.
You're all set.
All right, so as always, we're going to kick off with HR, Retail, Business Central, and Project. Today, mostly focusing on Business Central and then D365 Commerce. So first, let's look at Business Central. So what we're seeing here is a key difference in how our 1099 reporting is going to be working out of Business Central. Previously there was a lot of configuration that would go within the system, just tied to some pre-existing tables. But one of the key things that was hurting our customers is a lot of last-minute changes coming from the IRS. A lot of these changes coming in October and November, really causing just not the best release and update cycle for us to be able to accommodate these October, November changes and get them put into place for year-end reporting. So what we've done is, rather than making some advancements to our existing 1099 solution, we're completely redeveloping and building a brand new solution out. So this brand new solution is going to be offered, really built on two key components. One's going to be for regulatory compliance, really meeting any of those IRS changes and being up to date with any regulatory needs, while also being a lot more simple from a technical standpoint. So it's going to be more of like a bolt-on solution rather than fully embedded within the system. So definitely, if you're using the 1099 reporting within Business Central, definitely would get ready now for this, because they'll be coming very shortly into your environments before we're moving all customers to this 1099 reporting model. So if this is of interest to you, then we'll definitely look at this and look at this new functionality. So next, we've got some next generation retail payments coming from our merging, or not merging, but our combination, our partnership between D365 Commerce and Adyen. So by creating a solution, collaborating between the two, what we're able to do is offer our retailers a lot more adjustable and adaptive capabilities when it comes to their in-store and even online experiences. So what we're going to be seeing with this new solution, partnering with Adyen, is quite a few different features. I'm going to call out at least most of them high level. So the first one will be wallet payments. So taking NFC-based payments using things like Apple Pay, Google Pay. As we see here, it's really gone from novelty to necessity, rather than retailers being able to, this being a nicety for them to have. This is really required for all retailers to be able to accommodate now. Another thing that we're seeing come up a lot increasingly is buy now, pay later. This is definitely an increasing motion where you're purchasing something right now and using providers such as Klarna or Affirm to pay later and pay over time for those upfront purchases. Another key capability is going to be mobility to in-store payments. So the key here is moving from the idea of using a point of sale that is being provided by the retailer themselves to actually using your own mobile device as a point of sale itself. So we're seeing a lot of advancements there from an Apple standpoint as well as Android. And so with this D365 and Adyen partnership, we're going to be able to accommodate for that. And kind of as part of that, another piece can be pay by link. So, being able to capture those NFC, tap to pay, and just in-person transactions are great. But, for me personally, I kind of was reading through this, and I think whenever I go to the car dealership, where maybe I am not able to pick up my car until later in that day, and so I'll just receive a link, pay via link, and then I can just go pick up my car after they've closed for the day. So that's another key feature coming to D365 Commerce. Another key feature that is going to be, I don't want to say it's hidden in here, but it's definitely after the first few that we've looked at, but intelligent payment routing. So one of the key costs that comes to transacting just on all these purchases is all the back end processing. So for example, when you go through a debit card purchase, it may have to go through many different debit networks, such as what we see here, Star, NYCE, Pulse. So each of these charge different fees. So what we're able to do is take part and use Adyen's capability to automatically identify any kind of eligible transactions and efficiently route them through the most cost-effective network. So not only are we offering a better experience to our users, but we're also able to save cost in addition to that. We also just have productive, consistent user experiences. But in addition to this, we've got embedded fraud protection. This also being supported by adding capabilities, post-visit and remote payment experiences, similar and expanded to the ones that we looked at above. And then just bring it all together, we've got a nice video kind of walking through what some of this is going to look like in the near future with this partnership fully coming together. Well, with that, we are covering out on our HR, Retail, Business Central, and Product for today. And we'll be stepping right into finance and supply chain. So first thing for today is going to be a fast track tech talk. That's always a bit of a tongue twister, I find. So this is talking on evolving our regression testing as we look at finance and operations. If I say RSAT, it's probably familiar to a good amount of folks out there. This is the tool that we've used historically for regression suite automation testing in F&O. This uses things like your Azure DevOps repositories to automatically rerun them against your system so that you can take an update and understand from a regression testing standpoint what needs to be identified and looked at further. But when we look at regression testing, there's more than just what's going on within D365 itself. There's a lot of integrations, especially nowadays with all of our different cloud applications and APIs. So what we need to look at is our next gen test automation, where we're combining different solutions on top of RSAT and F&O to create a more holistic testing approach. So for all those out there who are more on the administrative side or on just regression testing, this is well worth the watch. Now, for those of you who maybe don't have the full hour that these tech talks take, now that's really a tongue twister, we've got our D365 bites. So we've got one here that was recently published on our supplier communication agent. So this is one of the newest agents that was delivered in, I believe, version was either 43 or 44, but it should be available to pretty much every customer out there, at least in one of your sandbox environments. So I know that at least myself and a few of my colleagues, initially when we installed this update, we said, these tools are fantastic, but it took us a little bit of understanding on how to get them set up and how to get them working. So if you're in that same place where you're really wanting to start utilizing these tools, but not sure where to get started, would definitely give a look to this D365 Bite for just a quick walkthrough of the supplier communication agent, as well as the setup and configuration of it. Next, one thing definitely want to be covering is simplifying license management for D365. This is kind of under the license validation umbrella. So, you may see right here, this is definitely not a new article, and I hope that this is not necessarily new content for any of our F&O users or customers out there. So what's going to be starting soon is license validation on the F&O side. So starting on September 1st, there's going to be warnings for unlicensed users in the system. We'll see a red banner right at the top of the app saying you're unlicensed or you're not correctly licensed. You need to reach out to your administrator and get this rectified. So those warnings will start in app September 1st in just about a week and a half. And then in November 1st, those users could very well be blocked from the system. And so if they get blocked from the system, needless to say, there's going to be a lot of interruption and disruption to business and just ability to, hold their own as it pertains to their daily jobs. So if you're an F&O user, definitely give this a look. There's quite a bit of good content in here, as well as a recap of all those dates that I just listed. A quick little visual right here of what that banner is going to look like. But this is very highly important. And kind of as part of that, I included the rest of our session really focused around this topic. The first piece is going to be viewing license consumption. So if you're an admin within your system, one thing you can do is go into Power Platform Admin Center, and you have a full UI on what your current licensing situation is here. So we see, for instance, this customer has 164 total users. 141 are currently unlicensed. So those 141 will be seeing that warning September 1st, and then eligible to be blocked from the system November 1st. So this is one report that we have to give you a high-up view of what's going on at the tenant level. This will look at all environments across the tenant. Then to dive in further, what we have is some brand new reports within D365 themselves. So we've talked a little bit about the user security governance features. One key report in this is going to be the license usage summary report. It's going to really help us identify what's going on at a permission level and causing different license requirements. So once you look in that Power Platform Admin Center report, if you see something that just doesn't quite look right, this is going to be the report to help you understand what's driving the numbers you're seeing there. So if you're not familiar with this, definitely go give this a look. There's going to be 2 different features you'll need to enable in your environment, but definitely go ahead and look at this right away. In addition to license review and license validation coming up, I definitely also want to make sure I mention our storage capacity. Similar to the Power Platform Admin Center license report, we also have a brand new capacity report. This has been available for a few months now within the Power Platform Admin Center just UI. So when you come in here, what you're able to do is see a summary page on what's going on from a database and file standpoint. And from there, you can click into your Finance and Operations tab to get specific detail about what environments are driving this capacity and this usage, how much. You can actually even click into each environment to see at the table level what's causing the complete usage and capacity. So while license validation is coming into place this calendar year, we do expect capacity to be validated very shortly thereafter. So definitely get ahead of this, because right now we're on a very tight timeline for licensing, and so we don't want to be there for storage. Then last thing for today, I found that this is kind of tied to everything above, because we can use our security governance tools here, and then also these we have to take into account for capacity. But for all those out there who are not familiar with the unified developer experience, I would again 100% suggest taking a look at this. This has been out there for well over a year now. These are going to be where we are moving to when it comes to our developer environments. Right now, everything's what we would call a tier 1, a cloud-hosted environment, but those will be going away in the midterm future and being replaced with these UDE, as what they're being called. These unified developer environments are deployed fully via Power Platform and fully managed via Power Platform. And so this is going to be the new experience going forward, where these are Microsoft managed rather than customer managed on your own Azure subscriptions. So I've definitely found a few folks out there who are not familiar with these. We'll definitely go ahead and start deploying these right now, just to get yourself familiarized with the overall experience, because we will be transitioning there again in the midterm. So with that, I think we round out for finance and operations for today. And we just got a few solution updates.
As always, there's lots of these, so pay attention to the things that you could go update if you wanted to in your Power Platform environments for solutions that are in that Dynamics 365 apps area, is what those all are. And I didn't list them, but just a reminder, if you haven't signed up for our Power Platform Community Conference or Ignite this fall, please make sure and go do those 2 things. There's going to be tons of announcements and information that you'll find relevant at those, but we're still a couple of months away from either of them actually being held, so we'll continue to remind you on that. But I think that's enough for this fortnight, Max. You got anything else?
Nope, that's it for now. And I might be ending up at the conference myself, so hopefully I'll be seeing some of you out there.
Sounds great. Well, thanks everybody. Have a great fortnight. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.